Except, oh, all right,
Yeah.
we're going. All right, hello everyone, welcome back to another Clio Talk.
We're supposed to do the cold open.
We're supposed to do the cold
kids
open.
Say, yeah.
Yeah, but I noticed. Well, hello everyone, welcome back to another Clio Talk. My name is Matt,
and I am RC,
and we're just getting right into it. Have you seen the blimp?
I did not see the blimp, but I saw the blimp.
For those of you who do not know, Kansas
is going to be the entire freaking listening audience.
Yeah, for people who don't live in Kansas City, which, I mean, most of you don't, Kansas City was assaulted by the modern-day version of the Hindenburg, which was a Subway-themed blimp.
Yes.
It was a blimp covered in Subway branding that apparently, if you knew about, you could eat Subway in the sky.
Yes.
Also, Kansas City is having a really bad air quality problem, so you would probably be suffering in the sky with horrible air quality flying around a regional Midwest city eating bad cold cuts.
Yes, my lungs hurt today. I am under personal attack by the nation state of Canada, and we cannot stand for this aggression. We must call forth all free nations of the world to liberate the Canadians from their wildfires.
Yeah, I mean, we were able to mobilize kind of an international effort to help Australia when their bushfires happened, and then we totally forgot about the bushfires because COVID happened 2 months later.
Yeah, it was immediate. That year went hard. I mean, we had the Iran thing in January of 2020, and then the bushfires where everybody was apocalyptic about that, and then an actual apocalypse happened.
Yeah,
COVID, and it was just kind of everything just stopped.
Man, and I still struggle to think that that is, over 3 years ago at that point, because I feel like time just stopped.
You're an old man now.
Yeah, I'm an old man now.
You're a grizzled veteran of the plague wars. Now, I was thinking today, because it feels like this whole summer has been the summer of Canada just randomly shotgunning American cities with lung choking smoke. And I know it's not their fault, but it is also their fault because at least we kind of fight the fires. I don't think the Canadians do at all. But anyways, regardless of that, I was just thinking about how it's so cool that this whole season of wildfires started with New York getting Fallout New Vegas levels of smoke where the skies were orange, it's Blade Runner 2049. And so they got to start off. So we got the whole media blitz. And then when it's oh no, this is just a thing. Everyone else is going to get this, but we already got to the one city that matters, so it doesn't really. Nobody cares about the other ones. When Minneapolis gets choked out, who cares?
It's time.
New York, it already happened in New York, and nothing. We didn't do anything about it.
It's
so
time to break out that old New Yorker article map where it's just New York City and the rest of the world doesn't matter. But speaking of Minneapolis, did you see that the local county judge for the county Minneapolis resides? I do not remember the name because I don't have...
Hennepin County. I got the name on lock. There you go.
Hennepin County. Thank you. A judge says they can't do their Vision 2040 plan because it's bad for the environment, apparently.
It was the environmental study thing. They got to do another environmental study. I was talking about this in one of the last episodes. I don't remember which one. I don't care. Just go back and listen to every single episode we've ever done, and you'll know what I'm talking about. But it was that always feels like the problem is you never have a highway that gets stopped. I-70 expansion never gets stopped by the environmental reviews, but it's always here we're trying to build a high-speed line between Hartford and New York, and it's no, you got to pause for 10 years to do an environmental study. And it's it's only ever the projects that would actually be good for the environment that seem like they have to hit these kinds of roadblocks. The ones that are yeah, we've decided to just dump oil into the middle of Yellowstone and then light it on fire. And it's no, go ahead and go for it. You don't even need a permit. You can just start doing it tomorrow.
We're going to keep fracking, and we're also going to build a pipeline through a... indigenous reservation where it's just sorry for the genocide. Let us poison your water by building a pipeline.
Yeah, it's that, and it's public comment, right? Because 69 Express, was there ever any public comment on that whole project, or did we just not hear about it because they don't report on it until it's starting tomorrow?
Actually, speaking on public comment, I know someone, I am going to do my best to protect your identity, who works with local governments.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that whenever they go, like the most recent one, they went to a public comment hearing just for some minute government thing that they had to open up to the public. A guy showed up with a prepared research conspiracy rant about JFK's assassination. And it's just like, sir, this is a public comment hearing on increasing the water department's budget. And you are ranting about JFK.
But this is what I mean, because it's like, they're never productive. We already have legislative sessions where you vote on these issues, right? Like any of these projects that are going through have already been voted on. And only is ever like, it just feels like the way we do it here is it's like, well, we have to have everybody's voices be heard at all times. We have to have 16 of these sessions. But then it's like, well, if that meant anything, you know, then the world would be a lot different, right? Because it's not like the elected officials are actually going to listen to the guy doing the JFK conspiracy theory, you know? I'm not saying that public input is bad. I'm just saying the way that we go about doing it is bad, because all it does is it just like puts the hard brakes on any project that's going to happen for like 5 years so we can just talk about it ad nauseum.
Yeah.
And half the people there didn't go to any of the meetings, so they just like recircle things that have already been talked about it. And then the other half of the people there don't have jobs or like are weirdly obsessive about going to city council meetings, and 9 times out of 10 they're the ones who don't even want you to put in like a new like bike lane, or like they don't want you to pave the sidewalk because, you know, the damn liberals are going to be walking everywhere next week, you know?
And now a judge has basically ruined Minneapolis's plan to basically be a model city to show like, hey, all you need to do is build like a mega, just massive amount of housing. And if you just keep on building and you just keep building stuff, things get better and rent goes down.
It's like you could tear up a parking lot to build like a rainforest preserve or like a prairie preserve, and you need to do 4 years of environmental impact, but you're gonna like demolish, you know, like down in Atlanta, you know, you're gonna demolish a natural forest to build a police training center, and it seems like there's literally nothing the community they can do. You know, there's no environmental review, there's nothing that needs to happen. You're demolishing like a large area to build an industrial facility, and it's like, oh, no, nothing can be done.
Or you could be Denver, who has an abandoned golf course that they wanted to turn into a housing, shopping, mixed-use center, and that got shot down thanks to NIMBYs and the Denver DSA.
Talk about the perfect case of, you know, perfect being the enemy of good, where it's like, no, we can't. It's like, oh, no, you're building affordable housing, but it's not affordable enough, so it would be better to just not build anything. It's just like, that one in particular is just like completely baffling, where it's just like, what are you doing?
Do people know, like, countries have attempted to solve homelessness and have successfully done it in a few countries, and all they do is just build enough housing that makes it affordable for everyone who needs a home to have a home?
If you just turn it so it's not like a retirement vessel or like an investment product, and turn it into like something people like cars, right? I don't buy a car expecting it to gain value every single week. I don't burn down my city council meeting when like you do a policy that makes my car lose value, right? Because it's something that I need to get from point A to point B, right? And I know it's going to lose value. I don't know why we don't treat houses the same way, right? You live in the house. It's going to lose value. You're going to accidentally put your elbow through the wall. Why do we have this expectation that the value of your house has to triple over the time that you own it, right? Like, I'm not saying you should be like losing money hand over fist. I'm just saying treating it as I bought this for $60,000, so I deserve to have it be worth $1 million when I retire. It's just like completely unsustainable, and I don't know where we got to this point, because that's half the problem with homelessness, is just half of the population exclusively votes for policies that make houses unaffordable for literally everybody else, you know?
Once again, another situation of fuck you, I got mine.
Yeah. It's just like, again, because the same people will tell you, you know, never buy new. You know, if you buy a new car, you're dumb because it's going to lose its value. You know, it's like an investment that you buy because you know you need a place to live. You need a house to live in. So you buy a house. you're not buying like a 401k, you're not buying a pension plan. You're buying someplace to live. And if it's serving that purpose, I don't know why you need anything else out of that. If it's keeping your family warm, it's giving you a place to cook and sleep. Why do you need it to also be generating money for you? It's stupid. And also it's unsustainable. It's just like, good job pricing half the population out of the market. It's not like those people need places to live too, Prairie Village is a good example of that. Right now, they're voting to dissolve the city government because the city government is trying to build affordable housing. I don't know if you heard about this. Prairie Village is a small town in Kansas, a small town. It's a suburb of Kansas City on the east side that should not exist. It should be part of just Overland Park. It really does not deserve to be its own town. But yeah, they're voting.
And have we ever actually explained the geography of Kansas City real quick?
I think it's more fun if you don't.
All right, yeah,
people from New York just talk about it as if everybody knows exactly what they're talking about. So I think it's kind of fun to just talk about Kansas City as if everybody knows what we're talking about.
All right, sorry about that. Back to the Prairie Village beef. I'll look it up on a map if you don't know what's going on.
Prairie Village, it's just like, so Prairie Village City Council voted and decided to try to build some affordable housing, right? Because the average home value of a house in Prairie Village, do you want to guess what you think it is?
Between $800,000 and $1.1 million.
Okay, not quite that high. That's a bit high. $556,000. So a bit high for, I think, what most people can afford.
That's high for Kansas City. For listeners who listen in more popular cities, you probably think that's a steal. That's high for Kansas City.
Yes.
My parents, when they moved here in the 90s, were able to buy a very large, sizable family home for a little bit over $100,000.
Yes. And these aren't exactly mansions. Like you see, like here's like what $20,000 gets you in, like, I was going to say Hoboken, New Jersey, but that's not, like somewhere in Ohio, and it's like a mansion. It's like, these are just kind of like regular suburb houses. They're kind of McMansions, I guess, some areas. But anyways, regardless of that, they're working to demolish the city government. They voted on a petition. A lot, like 3,000 people have like signed a petition to delete the government, to which the city lawyer's like, yeah, you can't do a petition to get rid of the government. And regardless, if you did get rid of the government, they're all elected officials, so they get to serve out the rest of their term. So they would still be in office until 2025. And then they also were trying to reduce the size of the city council from 12 to 6. So they can just,
Wait. Prairie Village has a 12-person city council?
Yes. The idea of the petitioners is if we reduce it from 12 to 6, because we're the voters, we can pick which 6 we kick off. So their plan is to just kick off the ones they don't like, to which the city lawyer is also like, yeah, that's like incredibly undemocratic, guys. They got elected by like everyone. And just because the 3,000 of you don't like them, it's a city of, I think, close to maybe 50,000 people. And this is 3,000 people.
I do not believe Prairie Village has 50,000 people in it.
I'm guessing
it probably at most has like 15,000 people in it. Prairie Village is tiny.
It's not as tiny as you think. 22. Okay.
All right, it is 22,000 people in it.
Larger than you thought, smaller than I thought.
Yeah.
But so this is 3,000 people.
Okay, but they fit 22,000 people in an area of 6.2 square miles.
Yes.
Honestly, I thought that Prairie Village was like less dense. It's a bunch of just irregular.
No, it's there's some parts of Overland Park too that are denser than downtown Kansas City. I was looking at the census data a little bit ago. Some parts of like the west side are really surprisingly dense for being suburban hell. Like almost 1,000 people per square mile or whatever. Or I don't know what the exact measurement the census data uses, but it's like 1,000. Whereas like Manhattan is like 10,000, you know what I mean? 10,000 number, whatever the number representative is. But yeah, that's the plan is for context as well. Home prices went up by 16% from last year to this year. So they're complaining about affordable housing being built, driving down their home values. And these are the same home values that rose by 16%.
Also, Kansas City's rents has been skyrocketing anyway, which is real weird
I think
because
by about the same amount.
by the same amount, which is extremely weird because once again, regional Midwest city, it was very affordable. Some would say cheap to live here.
Yes.
And that was kind of the case for, I think, almost like RC and I's entire childhood.
Yeah. It was always the hidden gem.
Yeah. And now it seems like that's no longer the case.
See, I always think, and I could be really stupid in saying this, I always think the problem with our housing market is that, especially when it comes to rents, is that it's kind of like if Kroger was the only person selling like bread. So, that's the monopoly, so they can just price whatever the hell they want. But they can't do that because they're competing with like Aldi, right? There's like Aldi brand bread, and Aldi will always price it cheaper because that's what they do. They're the cheap option, know? That's the problem I see, is that there's no like cheap option to compete with. So all the rentals, like 1 night, 2 night, 3 night, all those places all over the city can just price it at pretty much whatever they want. Because, the other options are like $2,000 a month. So the rents just go up because everyone realizes, wait a second, we're not really competing with anything because everybody else is raising rents too. So we can just keep doing this. Because there's no baseline public housing that's priced at like $500 per unit. If you can't afford the $2,000 per month, I'll just go to the other option that's worse but cheaper.
It's an unwitting collusion. I guess this is actual market forces, but this is market forces that are drastically impacting. I can hear my one land value tax friend screaming the only solution is land value tax, but we're not going to get into that.
Well, I still think that the option I see is just, I don't know why we stopped having like city built apartments, because if you have a city built apartment that has its own kind of like price fixing and stuff, but it's like city run, so you're not having to impose price fixing.
So I saw something in the Kansas City Museum when I went there a few weeks ago. They were talking about how there was a public housing apartment complex that they built, and it was never more than like 50% full. And that really racked my brain, because it isn't just like, there was still a homeless problem in the 70s and 80s in Kansas City. There were still poor people in the 70s and 80s in Kansas City. How did you not fill the public social housing?
That doesn't make sense. Do they have an explanation?
No, it just said that it got torn down in like the early 2000s, but it was never more than 50% full. I'm just like, were the units not able to be occupied by humans, or were there like, what was the issue that resulted in it not being like more than 50% full?
Because I don't understand that, and I almost have to imagine it's like some form of sabotage or racism or something, where it's just, well, here, let's make sure this fails. Let's like in Los Angeles, let's buy the streetcar network and make them fail so that we can say, oh, it's a failure, we can never try it again.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they just didn't allow families, or they basically like had such draconian restrictions that basically it was almost impossible to get housing.
Like a minimum credit check for like a $500 a month apartment.
Or like
anyone who can't afford that isn't going to move in.
Or like if you're like a natural family who's down on their luck, like, oh, sorry, dad can't move in. It has to be single mothers only type of deal.
Yeah. Because that's the big solution I see. Because Kansas City has a trend where every single major like apartment development you see will get like a $20 million tax abatement or whatever.
Not $20 million, 20-year tax abatement.
Yeah. Well, I've seen somewhere it's just like a dollar amount. Like I think 3Light or something, I saw like $29 million. And maybe that was just the estimated cost.
Yeah.
But I just see that, and it's like, how about we take that money that we're giving to them and just use it to build apartments? Like, I know that an abatement is just like you're not paying tax, but how about instead of doing that, instead of giving places abatements, we just generate places ourselves? We build apartments, and then we have tax revenue from the people living in it, and then we also have the rental revenue that's going towards the housing department that we can use to upkeep and then also build more.
This is completely unrealistic. This is just a weird fantasy that I have all the time. You can be mad at me if you want. This is a fantasy that I have in my head which is basically the city somehow acquires a bunch of funds to wield eminent domain like a massive sword of Damocles and force people to lower rents by basically saying we will eminent domain a massive swath of your fancy neighborhood with this one fell swoop and build the most disgustingly ugly commie blocks right in it unless you fix your rent issue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't even see if you're gonna go like militant, you don't even need eminent domain. You could just do like rent control legislation. I think that.
But I just think that
you're more
building
likely,
looking at the Minneapolis solution compared to the St. Paul solution, building more housing seems to be the thing that worked in that Twin City experiment.
Yeah. Instead of the rent controls, and that's where I'm saying is I think you just have to have instead of just putting a hard cap on rents as a solution, or like just seizing property developments, constructions. I think if you just have an alternate option, if you have I guess like in terms of healthcare, if you have a public option, so all the insurance companies are also competing with the government insurance, so you can't price it. The government option's $100 a month. Blue Cross or whatever is $500, and so it's like, well, of course I'm going to go with the $100 a month, but then they have to then offer more options for the money you're getting, so they price it at $150. But you get dental, you get all this other stuff. So that way you have kind of a baseline price set by the city. So if the city apartments are like $400 a month per rent, because they're just basically making exactly what they need to upkeep plus $5 to go into like a streetcar fund or something like that. Basically they're not making a profit. So then you're competing with that with your luxury apartments, but anyone who's looking at your luxury apartment is also looking at the city option where it's like, well, okay, I could move in here for $2,000 a month and it's a really nice apartment, or I could move into the city option for $400. It's a lot shittier, but it's like living in a studio in New York. It's like, well, it's a lot shittier, but I'm saving a lot of money and I can use that money for like savings to buy a house or something like that. Basically, I'm just saying you mediate the market by having a mass bulk wholesale option effectively. And then that also generates money for the city to then also do eminent domain for other places,
Yeah.
Do I sound crazy? I don't know. That's just my thought I've been thinking of for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we aren't experts at this. This is just to...
Look, it's worked before. I mean, like this isn't the... I just... This isn't a unique problem to our current generation and like time period we're living in, and other societies have maybe not solved the problem but mitigated it, but we just apparently have decided to do nothing about it, just let it kind of run its course. But it's like I don't see the course ending. I just see people who have, fuck you got mine. People who have property, who have all this stuff, are going to continue to have property and have all this stuff, and the people who don't are just going to get further and further from the step up to be able to get that, because we're not doing anything to actually make it more reasonable. There's not going to be any like New Deal or whatever to kind of just mass build dams, I don't know. There's no Works Projects Administration anymore. So.
Yeah. There's no at least livable apartment complexes that are affordable being built.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this is just a weird housing rant.
Well, it's funny that we bring it up because this is what I was kind of thinking about today. I feel like there's a way to solve the problem, like two birds, one stone it, because the city was talking about having too much land, and it's like, well, how about instead of selling that land to people, we like lease it or something? I just don't know. The city seems like completely against ways of generating revenue other than taxes, right? I don't think it's illegal for the city to rent things out to people.
A lot
or
of
to lease land, to generate revenue.
A lot of this has a capital cost that the city of Kansas City can't really afford.
But if you bond out, an apartment complex, and the apartment complex generates hand over fist money because all of a sudden it's the option, Like if you undercut everybody else in the city by like 50%, that's going to pay off that bond pretty quickly, right? Because you can fill up a 500 unit apartment pretty quickly.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm just saying alternate means of solving exactly what you're talking about, the budget issues and stuff. Just generate revenue other than just taxes. Because if we're just completely, and that would also densify the city as well.
Or we build 100 million units of commie blocks all across the country.
I'm not saying we don't make them commie blocks. So I'm not going to bring that up. Yeah, I'm not saying we don't do commie blocks, but we just got to do something. Because that's about it. We just need, we have like an issue with supply in this country, and nobody wants to recognize it. Everyone says, well, we got way more housing than whatever. But it's like, look, if I got, 1 million units of caviar and 5 regular eggs, you don't say, well, we've got plenty of eggs in this country. You go like, well, no, those are 2 different types of eggs, and they serve very different purposes. So we need to get more regular eggs because not everyone can afford or wants caviar, Right now we got a shitload of caviar. We kind of need to not just look at the whole bunch and be like, well, we got plenty of eggs. We need to be like, well, we don't have a lot of the regular eggs. We just have a lot of this other type, Is that a good metaphor? I think that's pretty good.
I like how you pivoted from bread to eggs.
Yeah, I'm just hungry. Can you tell?
Yeah. Anyway, that's... If you have any solutions, please, I guess, write your senators if they aren't, currently dying.
The problem is that every way to make an age limit for Congress has to be passed by Congress people, and they just get free money for life. So why would they ever do that? Because holy crap, why are so many? It's like a bipartisan issue of all of our senators are dying from old age. It's like it used to be kind of a joke that the senators, like the Congress is a retirement home, but that was a joke like 20 years ago, and all the same fucking senators are still in office. And it's like, what? Okay, come on, guys, come on.
Let's just say if your child is like complete power of attorney over you, you shouldn't be one of 2 representatives for the largest by populous state in the union.
I just say if you can't see, and I don't even want to do like driving tests because then all of a sudden there'd be no senators from New York, and I'm not sure that would be a bad thing, but you know what I mean, like none of them could pass a driving test. But like there's got to be some kind of easy criteria we can do where it's like, okay, you're a bit too old.
I think 75 is a fair age limit. That's a little bit above what, well, actually, basically 10 years above what retirement age should be in the United States. 75, I think that's also the age requirement that you have to stop being represented in whatever house you're in Minnesota. 75, fair age.
If you put this up to a popular vote from the country, I genuinely think it could be like bipartisan support. Almost everybody would vote for it. I genuinely don't think there'd be that many people against it, because I see people both about Trump and Biden just be like, yeah, they're both like 78 or something like that. Like, it's just ridiculous, and they make fun of both sides. So it's like I genuinely think this could be a bipartisan thing.
Should have,
but the Congress people are in charge of passing the damn law, and they're never going to do it because the free money train will land.
With all due respect to people born in the 40s, I think people born in the 40s should not be in charge of people born in the 2000s.
Yeah, I think if you remember shaking hands with Kennedy, you should not be allowed to be in office anymore. That's a bit too old, guys. He died in like the 60s. Like he died before my dad was born. I don't think you should be in Congress. You're too old. And it's just from a... How on earth are you supposed to pass legislation about TikTok if you were born before World War II? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like asking somebody born in like 1789 to pass legislation on like the latest steam train. It's like, how are they going to really comprehend that? They're like probably 100. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
Because it's like if they're supposed to be like the best of us, our representatives, they're not doing a very good job of it. I don't think they were ever supposed to be the best.
How is Jimmy Carter still alive?
It's the peanut stuff, dude. You just got to eat peanuts. Also, he doesn't have the like inexorable sins of. Well, actually, he invaded someone, didn't he? He tried to invade Iran, right?
He did try and invade Iran to release the hostages.
What else did he do? He had to have done something. I mean, he did 3 Mile Island. That was an inside job, right? The one time we have a nuclear president.
The one time we have a nuclear incident in the United States, and who was there literally hours later? Jimmy Carter, president of the United States.
100% an inside job. That's my conspiracy theory I'm coming up with. Jimmy Carter did 3 Mile Island so he could have like an up moment.
Yeah.
It's like, but I just so happened to have been the only president who ever actually worked with nuclear reactors. The one time the U.S. has a major nuclear incident. Oh, convenient. Jimmy Carter didn't do 3 Mile Island. I don't want this to actually be a thing, by the way. I don't endorse that.
That wasn't an inside job. And then Jimmy Carter was then soundly beaten by a former Hollywood actor turned insane conservative.
Yes.
He
might have been, like, I guess the nicest president we've had, maybe. I don't really know Jimmy Carter. But, man, he was really ineffectual. I don't know anything he got done. Like, what did he actually do in office? Because everything I think of, it was Nixon, like the EPA and stuff. Everything you'd assume he would do.
So, in Carter's defense, the 70s were a pretty drastic economic malaise compared to the 1960s and 50s.
Yeah, inflation.
And Carter's fiscal policies were able to start to turn that around, but like most Democratic presidents, they lost the presidency before like the actual final major success appeared.
How are you elected after Watergate and you don't even get a second term? Like that's the biggest indictment of him I see is, I mean it was Watergate, like the one that we name every other like thing after.
Well,
but he doesn't even want. I know it's like economy bad, all that stuff, but like,
the economy was on the recovery, and it's Reagan who got to basically deregulate a bunch of stuff and crank it into overdrive when we were on a steady increase after stagflation, which is I don't want to completely blame it on the oil crisis and Gerald Ford, but I'm going to, for simplicity's sake, that is the oil crisis and Gerald Ford's fault.
No, my boy Gerald did nothing wrong.
And
talk about not knowing anything he did while president. What the hell did Gerald Ford even do?
He got made fun of on Saturday Night Live. I think he survived 2 attempted assassination attempts.
Everybody talks about Jimmy Carter being like our nicest president. No, my boy Gerald, I don't think he did anything wrong other than like, I guess, pardoning Nixon. But like, did he invade anything? I don't think so. He didn't have the cachet to do anything. He's like a modern day William Henry Harrison. Right?
He was basically America's first Homer Simpson president.
Yes, he had the Homer Simpson phenotype or whatever it is.
But Ronald Reagan was able to become president because he was a Republican that wasn't tainted by Watergate.
Yeah.
And, any Republican that wasn't tainted by Watergate was ready to go. But anyway, I like to use it kind of as how Obama was able to, although Obama got 2 terms, so he got to have some great economic success near the end of his second term. But Jimmy Carter and Obama inherited very similar economic situations, did steady liberal financial changes to increase the economic situation and make it like improve. And in comes a bombastic populist swinging in who's able to basically steal the credit when the great success happens, i.e. like Reagan with the like 1980s massive economic boom with the yuppies. And Donald Trump with the the economy's great, trade war with China, my DNA is USA type of deal.
I still look at that as you have to be an ineffectual politician to not be able to wield that, right? Like, I know it's like Reagan or whatever, but like, I mean, it's like the first national media ousting of a president, right? And you're not able to wield that into successfully winning a second term, which is typically very easy for presidents to do.
I mean, I think the 1980 election was actually pretty close, but let me vet that first.
I don't think it was that close. I mean, I know 84 was like a rout, but I guess it was that, and I guess the Iranian hostage crisis also did not look very good at all.
It did not look very good.
But
I'm going to take that back. Carter got absolutely fucking trounced by electoral college votes.
Yeah.
That was... he did win 48% of the popular vote.
I think that's a pretty big loss, actually, in terms of... It's usually about that. Right?
But Reagan got 489 of the electoral college votes compared to Jimmy Carter's 49.
Now do 84.
I am... Yes, that is 525 electoral college votes to Walter Mondale's 13. Hold on, let me go back to the one when Richard Nixon absolutely obliterated.
Yeah, 72. Which, talk about dropping the ball, actually. Let's point our ire at Nixon right now. How do you win that big of a majority in the election and then also do Watergate?
Okay.
Like, I know Watergate was before the election, but it's like, come on, guy.
No, Watergate was after the 72 election.
No, it was before it. Because they were trying to look up what the Democrats knew, right? The break-in was before, but all the actual stuff was after, right? It was the committee to re-elect the president that broke into the Democratic office,
you're
Watergate
right.
Hotel. Yeah, I know I'm right. I listened to a book about it.
Yeah. I just am reaching back to the history of the 1970s class I took in college, and we just did a bunch of stuff about Watergate. And one of my favorite theories, because we were basically like trying to like think of possible theories just as like a fun exercise.
Theories about what?
About like why Nixon would wanted to break in and get the information to see what the DNC had on him.
Mm-hmm.
This was just a fun exercise of just theoretical history. It wasn't actually like legit research. We were just kind of spitballing because it was like at the end of like the semester and things were basically winding down.
Yeah.
And one of the theories was about how Richard Nixon's brother was kind of like a fail son who
He had a brother?
Yeah, and he started like a burger restaurant and that failed, and Richard Nixon was like really embarrassed about the burger restaurant. This is do you go to the Wikipedia's main page and then look up what you want to like search instead of just
I do,
instead of Googling just like the thing and then wiki at the end of it?
Because I don't like having a bunch of Google searches populating my history because it kind of just clutters it. So I'd rather just have the Wikipedia page and then the page in the history, because then if I have like a search for, I'm just really fucking weird about it. Okay, I just like nice clean search history. So I'm just like, okay, I don't have the search. I just have the Wikipedia page, and then...
Why do you care about your search history?
I don't know. I'm just weird like that.
I don't think I've ever like looked at my search history. I usually just clear it instantly.
It like suggests you what you search. You know, like when you pop up the thing on your phone or whatever, it suggests you what you search. And I'd rather it suggest me Wikipedia than suggest me wiki space Nixon. You know, because I actually use the Wikipedia site, whereas. It's
but are you
of how Android works? Okay, because it will just suggest you your recent searches, and I don't want it to just be a bunch of nonsense I look up. I'm like I'm going to Wikipedia, and then I'm looking up the thing.
Are you giving Wikipedia money though? Because I'm giving Wikipedia money.
Yeah, I give Wikipedia money.
Good. All right. All right. Since we have Richard Nixon's Wikipedia
Not
page up,
account.
because this is what's going on this episode.
I contribute to Wikipedia. I'm a Wikipedia editor. Are you?
I'm not a Wikipedia editor.
That's what I thought. Fake man.
Anyway, so since we're basically rambling, another Simpsons fact, since we brought up Simpsons with Gerald R. Ford, Richard Milhouse Nixon. Milhouse is the name for that character Milhouse, Bart's kind of friend, and Matt Groening was just like, yeah, that's just kind of a stupid name, and it works for Milhouse.
Have you ever looked up Matt Groening's family's name?
Yes, and it's just all the major characters of The Simpsons.
Yeah, his dad was Homer.
Yeah.
Man, politics in the 70s and 80s and 60s was just bizarre. Like, can you imagine having some? Because I thought the George Floyd protests were going to be our closest bit to this. But can you imagine having like anything like the 1968 like protest movement.
Can you imagine a bunch of people trying to go today and try and levitate the Pentagon with their minds?
I mean, can you imagine like a the major presidential candidate who's probably going to win the election getting shot in like August or whenever he got shot? I don't know. Like California primary is like end of the month, end of the year. He had already like won. Can you imagine that? Because I every time I like read about the 60s or 70s, it's just so bizarre to me where it's like all this stuff where it's like, oh yeah, unions used to have power and they used to like be able to mobilize people. Because again, the George Floyd protest stuff was like the closest I think we've ever gotten to a national movement on the scale of like what Vietnam did. But even then, it didn't like have the same effect at like, well, like the polls and stuff. I mean, Trump lost, but it's like
also the impact of the George Floyd protest compared to also catching the coronavirus was pretty high.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like Trump lost, but he lost to Biden, not to a Robert Kennedy type, because we just don't have a Robert Kennedy type.
But
we don't
Biden,
have any type of like
who was alive and probably illegal adults during Watergate.
Yes, yeah, he was. And then Trump lost to Hillary, where there's a photo of her as like an adult who is about to graduate college or has graduated college with JFK, or is that Bill Clinton with JFK?
I think it's
Clinton with JFK.
I think it's Clinton with JFK, but there's also a picture of Nancy Pelosi with JFK as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, since we have the Watergate scandal thing up, do you know you can rent the Watergate room?
Really?
Yeah.
It's not like a...
Yeah, you can. The Watergate Hotel's still a 5-star hotel.
I knew they still existed.
And the room that the guys that were hired staked out in before they stuck down to go break into the DNC headquarters, you can rent, and it's basically still in the 1970s aesthetic, and they have just a bunch of memorabilia around it. It's a lot of money, but you can stay in the Watergate room.
That's always been the biggest question I've had is, why was a hotel the DNC headquarters? Like,
well, the Watergate complex is a hotel and office building.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I just always thought that the DNC was like stoked up in some like 2-bedroom queen hotel room for some reason. Damn, we're paying out the ass like $200 a night for this stuff for the entire election cycle.
No, it was it's a mixed 1960s mixed use complex. They still have offices in the Watergate complex. They also still have the hotel.
You know what I didn't do when I was in D.C. a few months ago is I did not go to the Watergate Hotel because I looked like a homeless person while I was there, and they probably would not have let me anywhere near it.
Also, another D.C. hotel fact is where Reagan got shot is actually outside of the D.C. Hilton. Which is also still a hotel, which looks basically still the same.
I think about that too. It's just like, we used to have a lot more like political assassinations. Like that just used to be a thing that happened all the time.
Not that we're implying more should happen. Please not read any extra context.
Once again, reading into like the history of like the 60s and 70s. I mean, you had like JFK get shot. You had Reagan get shot at. You had Gerald Ford got shot at like twice. Robert Kennedy got shot. It's just like, I mean, like Martin Luther King. Like, I guess that was its own like sack of potatoes, him and Malcolm X and those guys.
It was the leaded gasoline.
Yeah, it was just bizarre. Like, we used to have so many political assassinations, and now I don't even think anyone's been shot at. Like, we have school shootings and stuff.
Well, we did have the guy like post on Facebook about trying to kill Joe Biden.
Yeah, that one was funny. I mean, I guess he died, but it's still funny. Like, if you post under your legal name about how you're going to kill the president when he's in town in a week, and then you post about how you have a gun ready for the FBI when they come to your door. At the very least, at least he wasn't like bullshitting, because he then died when the cops came to his door, when the FBI came to his door, because he tried to shoot them. It's like, oh my God.
Grandpa, no.
Grandpa, don't post death threats to the president under your legal name, explicitly detailing your plans. Don't post it. Don't at the Facebook account for the FBI when you do it. and say at Facebook or at FBI, I'm coming for you. Don't do that.
Don't post pictures of you in a ghillie suit, ready to snipe the president from the exact building you think you want to snipe him from.
I think this was a different guy, but when the FBI comes to your door asking, "Hey, did you post about trying to kill the president?" Don't tell them, "Well, no, that was a joke, but if Nancy Pelosi ever comes here, I'm shooting her on sight." Don't say that, guys. It's not a good idea. Yeah,
man, we went into this with no plan, and we're running longer than we usually record for.
It's usually when we don't have a script, because when we have a script, the script ends, I find. But when we don't have a script, the script never ends. Because if you guys don't know, this is pretty much just like our conversations we have with each other. That's why we kind of did this. So we can just keep going.
Yeah.
But we probably won't, because I have to eat dinner.
Yes, it's pretty late in the night.
It is pretty late, yeah.
Yeah.
And my lungs hurt.
Thanks, Canada. I want to know what your plan is for the 2024 fascist takeover, which apparently I heard that you guys are planning in case the United States gets taken over by...
Do you want me to tell you what I told you in the car, my plans
Yes.
were? Oh, what I was saying was, he was talking about, like, yeah, if like, you know, January 6th, but this time it works and we have like the People's Republic of Trump or whatever. It's like, okay, if Canada has a plan to invade and like restore order, I don't care if they're like restoring liberal democracy in the United States. I will shoot any Canadian soldiers I see on sight. I do not respect them. This will not be in Minecraft. If I see any Canadians or like whatever, I do not respect them. I will not respect their orders. I'm not on the side of the fascist government takeover, but I am also not on the side of the Canadian military if they are in my country. I am sorry. If the Germans are here, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess turnabout's fair play, whatever.
Yeah.
But the Canadians specifically, just specifically the Canadians.
The Union forever unless it's being enforced by the Canadians.
Yeah, I don't respect Canada, guys. I'm sorry. I don't care if you have better healthcare than us. I just don't. You'll never get my respect. Try landing on the moon, losers. Anyways, this is Clio history.
Try not encouraging your veterans to kill themselves.
Wow, you're depressed? Have you considered suicide? Don't consider suicide, everyone. There's help out there. Call your friends. They love you. People care about you. This has been the Clio history. We care about you. I've been RC.
And I've been Matt. You can find us on Twitter at Clio History. You can email us at cliohistorypodcast@gmail.com. Please give us a like or subscribe or a review and anywhere you get your podcast. That really helps us in the algorithm. Yeah, that's about it. And if you do have depression, please reach out to friends and loved ones. There are medication and help out there for you. Yeah, cool. Bye.
Bye.